I am not my body. We know that. Spirituality 101, not the body. And yet, there's an impact, a very direct impact upon my spiritual experience of the body. Now, what do I mean? I don't mean there's a direct impact on my spiritual experience by, say, my fingernail or my wrist, but the brain is part of the physical body. The nervous system, our spinal cord, our very physical brain, very physical, tangible gray matter, white matter, neurons. An impact there impacts my spiritual experience. And on a very simple level, we know that, for example, because when the chemistry or electricity of our brain changes, we feel differently, both emotionally and mentally, as well as spiritually. For example, meditating after you have just, say, drunk an entire bottle of vodka is going to be a completely different experience than meditating if you have not just drank an entire bottle of vodka. Okay? Meditating, chanting, doing puja, after having ingested a lot of mind-altering, brain-altering chemicals, whether they are legal or illegal, prescribed, over-the-counter, whatever they may be, it impacts us. Even things as simple, for example, as certain types of food. In ashrams, for example, they avoid things like garlic and onions. Why? I mean, I won't go too much into that discussion, but it simply has to do with how they impact the physical body. They're wonderful for our health, but how they impact the body in a way that intersects with our spiritual ability to meditate, to attain stillness in the mind. So we know that although I am not my body, although I'm not the matter of my body, that which is happening in the matter of my body impacts my ability to connect spiritually. You then take it from the physical to the emotional. Sitting down to meditate when I'm really angry is much more difficult than sitting down to meditate when I'm in a really peaceful, love-filled, joyous space. Right? Anybody else notice this? Okay. So again, I'm not my body, I'm not my emotions, I'm not the anger, and yet that which is taking place in my body, in the brain, in the emotions of the mind, impacts my ability to have a spiritual experience. If I'm going to meditate when I'm angry, first I have to dissipate the anger. First I have to bring the anger into a place of peace, into a place of consciousness. And only then can my meditation even begin. So the intersection between spiritual well-being and mental illness is they're different aspects of ourself. So that which takes place in the chemistry and the electricity of my brain, the very physical brain, which when it goes awry, we refer to it as mental illness. But really, more and more each year, we're learning scientifically how much of that is correlated with, if not caused by, simply a different chemistry and different electrical behavior in the brain. We can stimulate different emotions. You can stimulate an area of the brain and evoke sadness, stimulate an area of the brain, evoke anger, stimulate an area of the brain, evoke sexual arousal, stimulate an area. I mean, we know this. We also know, again, that chemistry, chemicals that I ingest, drugs, alcohol, they impact how I feel emotionally. If you talk to a bunch of people who drink too much alcohol and you say, why you do that? They'll give you all emotional reasons. Well, I do it because I'm stressed. I need to be unstressed. I do it because I'm depressed. I want to be not depressed. I do it because I'm shy. I want to be not so inhibited. And so they're using chemistry to bring about a different emotional state. And I emphasize this point because when we talk about our emotions or our feelings, most of us feel like they are very core to who we are. This is how I feel. I need you to understand it. You have to listen. I mean, right? How many of our interpersonal difficult conversations are rooted in something that sounds like, but this is my feeling and it's essential and you must understand and get it. And I don't mean to undermine that, but when we're able to understand really that a chemical would change how I feel, that a little bit of electric stimulation would change how I feel, it helps us take those feelings a little bit more lightly. It helps us take our emotional drama a little bit less seriously. Spiritual well-being, spiritual experience, is that which takes us beyond chemistry and electricity, beyond what we've been indoctrinated in by the world, into a truth that is not dependent upon what experiences I had as a child, what type of family of origin I come from, what the current chemistry or electricity of my brain might be. But it's a truth that isn't contingent upon my current state. That's the spiritual truth. But as a physical being, my only way of interacting with that truth, of knowing that truth, is through my physical brain. Which is why in all of the spiritual teachings, in all of the ashrams or retreat centers or yoga centers or monasteries of any different religion all over the world, they have teachings and rules and regulations and discipline not only about your meditation. It's not do whatever you want and then at 5 a.m. we all gather to meditate. But how you spend the rest of the day, no problem. Yeah, there's a bar down the block, there's a brothel over here, there's a disco in this corner. There's a reason that the discipline of the spiritual life is one whether you're a celibate monastic or a householder, either way. Whether you're learning about it just in a yoga class or some meditation retreat. But if your teacher is good, inevitably they're going to talk to you about the impact of things like what you eat, what music you listen to, what TV shows you watch, how much time a day you spend engaged with your device, and your spiritual well-being. Because if they didn't talk to you about that, it wouldn't be a full program. Our ability to sit and meditate, even, for example, forget drugs and alcohol for a moment. Has anybody ever tried to get up 4 or 5 in the morning after they've had a really big Indian or Italian or Mexican feast the night before? Anybody ever tried to do that? I have. Anybody else? So you have a big dinner the night before. 8:30, 9, 10 o'clock at night. You get up the next morning to meditate. How do you feel, right? She goes, ugh. Yeah, exactly. But it was perfect. It was perfect because that's exactly how you feel. Now, on the deepest spiritual level, a bowl of spaghetti has nothing to do with the eternal truth of who I am. And yet, it has a direct impact on my ability to experience that. Because I need the chemistry and electricity and physicalness of my body to be in alignment to help me transcend that. And so we take care of what we eat, of what music we listen to, of what TV shows we watch, of who our friend circle are. All of these things are part of our spiritual experience. And so whether it's mental illness or something as seemingly innocuous as indigestion and anything in between, yes, it's going to impact how you experience, dive into your spiritual truth. And so if I'm furious or I'm overcome with lust or I'm simply constantly burping because of the dinner I had the night before, either way, meditation is going to be very difficult. And this is why the teaching is all about control the mind and control the senses. Otherwise, you take something like the Bhagavad Gita, 700 precious verses. For a scripture, that is nothing. You can get a Gita this size. It's the cliff notes of spirituality. Long before anybody was talking about cliff notes or shortcuts. Why in 700 precious verses would Lord Krishna take up time on something as seemingly material as what type of food we should eat? I mean, really? He's talking about the ultimate soul? Never born, never dies? Can't be wet with water, dried by the wind, cut with knives, but be careful what you eat. That's a really interesting dichotomy. You are not the body. O Arjun, neither were you born, nor will you die. Nor were they born, nor will they die. You are the soul. And eat in moderation. Not too heavy. Why? Why would he come from this place of the ultimate, highest, metaphysical, spiritual truths and take up precious verses on our food? Because it impacts us. It impacts our spiritual experience. Why would he emphasize about emotional stability and equanimity? If I'm the soul and I was never born and never died, then success, failure? Why even talk to me about these things? Why talk to me about sukh and dukh, happiness and sadness? Of what relevance are they? Well, they are relevant because, like my physical experience, the chemicals in my body from what I eat are impacting the ability of my physical brain to be my ally in meditation in the same way. My clutching, my yearning, or my aversion, my preferences, my likes, my dislikes, all of that is interfering with my meditation. And so anything that's going to interfere with or impede my ability is worthy of being included in those 700 verses. So this is where, even though, no, you're not the physical body, no, you are not your emotional patterns and experiences and chemistry and electricity, regardless of where you are on the illness to health spectrum. Even though you're not those, we have to take care of both of those, because we need them both to be in alignment to help us meditate. It's like whenever I begin the meditation, and I always say, stop moving, right? It's always one of the very first instructions I give. Stop moving. Why? Theoretically, if our highest truth is that we are God, what should it matter if I'm absolutely still or if I'm dancing? Shouldn't matter. I should be able to be jumping up and down, hopping on one foot, skipping rope. Why should skipping rope impede my ability to know that I'm God? It shouldn't, and it does. Because what we know is that having that spiritual experience, especially in the early stages, is so not what we are programmed for in our mental minds. And we really need all the extra help we can get. So we need the body to be still. We need it to be not still burping from last night's dinner. We need it to be healthy and strong enough that sitting here, my knee isn't killing me or my back killing me. And we need the mind not to be saying, it's not fair, I hate him, I hate her, I wouldn't have to meditate if she didn't make me so mad. It's all his fault. If he just were nicer, I wouldn't have to be sitting here and meditating, right? So that is an impediment to meditation. If every time I close my eyes, that's what happens, I'm not meditating. And so this is where we have to keep the body healthy, keep the mind healthy. This is why I always say when people ask about, psychology, I always say use it for whatever way you can use it to help your mind become an ally. Use it. And then let it go. So don't get stuck in it, but use it as a tool to bring about the understanding, the mental health that enables you to sit and meditate and say, thank you, God, instead of it's not fair. And then you let it go. Because that's when then we're able to shift our focus to the spiritual work and to the spiritual experience. So before taking any of our other questions that came in advance, I'm happy to open it up if there are any questions that anyone here might have. Yes, in the back.
How is the couple relationship, romance, an obstacle?
I'm so sorry. How is the relationship?
The couple, the romance.
The romance,
Yeah, an obstacle.
Oh, okay. So how is romance an obstacle on the spiritual path? That couple relationship. Well, first of all, it doesn't have to be. In the spiritual teachings, there is nothing that says you have to be a sannyasi, you have to be a monk, or you have to be a nun, or you have to be celibate. In fact, the scriptures are filled. Many, if not most, of the rishis, of the teachers, the guides in the scriptures, are actually not renunciants, but actually are householders. So it doesn't have to be an obstacle by any means. The issue is that regardless of which path we choose, we have to keep remembering that our ultimate goal is the same. The ultimate goal is to realize, not just intellectually in my mind, but actually in my experience, in the knowing of myself, my capital S self, that who I am is divine. And whether we call it awakening or enlightenment or waking up or moksha or freedom or whatever term we use for it, that's the ultimate goal, is experiencing and knowing, really knowing that who you are at the core, that highest truth is divinity, which therefore means it is oneness with the world, that there is no place you end and the world begins. Now, we also are here, of course, in physical bodies. And the physical bodies have had histories and experiences and different karmic packages. And that is also real. But it's important not to get stuck in that. Otherwise, we think that that's all we are. And so we become like actors playing a role, forgetting that we are actually the one who has agreed to wear the costume. And it's very important at the end of the day that actors, they, after the show, they take off the costume, they wash off the makeup, they go home. And they remember, I'm the actor, I'm the player of the role. And in the history of theater or movies, I've never once heard of an actor who played a villain who actually went home and murdered his family because he forgot. But he forgot that the villain was only a role, and he, over-identified with it and forgot to take it off when he went home. And slaughtered his neighborhood. I've never heard of that, ever. When you think about how many commercials, TV shows, movies, theatrical productions happen all over the world. But every one of the actors and actresses remembers, I'm just playing the role. And so for us, our highest goal is to remember, oh yeah, I'm just playing this. So I'm here playing a 48-year-old female renunciant. You're over there playing something else. She's playing something else. He's playing our beloved cameraman. Everybody's playing something different. And we need to play it well, sincerely. But we also have to remember there's this whole other reality behind the mask, behind the role. This reality that has played God knows how many roles, has worn how many masks over eternity. And so, whichever path we choose in life, it's equally important that we remember what the purpose is. So, when people get married, for example, Puja Swamiji's blessing to them always is, may you walk together toward that ultimate goal of God realization. Not may you forget the ultimate goal and think that actually it's about how many toys you can buy for your children, or whether your house can be bigger than the house of the people next door, or squeezing each other to be exactly the way you want the other one to be, or forgetting that in the other you are supposed to be seeing God, not just an object that makes your object feel good for a few very brief moments. And so the relationship is not the problem. The romance is not the problem. The problem becomes when we think that that's all there is, that that is the point. Romance is drama, just like any other drama. And that doesn't mean it isn't fun. That doesn't mean that we are not allowed to enjoy it. By all means, enjoy it. The Sanskrit term Leela means the divine play. That we're all here engaged in the Leela, enjoy it. Whatever your role may be, enjoy it, play it to the fullest and best of your ability. Whether it's a mother, a wife, a nun, whatever it may be, but the attachment. So the whole teaching, and this is why relationship is a yoga, why householder phase is considered an ashram of life, to learn how to do it without the attachment. And here's an interesting secret. Just because you are celibate or a renunciant doesn't mean you are automatically freed of attachment. You still have to do the work. Simply abstaining from sensual pleasures does not, sadly, automatically remove every obstacle on the spiritual path. It would be fantastic if it did, but you still have to do the work. You can be attached to so much, anything. In relationship, yeah, we're attached to relationship. We're attached to the physical people. We're attached to them behaving the way we want them to behave. But just because you're not having romance doesn't mean that you don't have attachments. That work of non-attachment is work for everybody. And so you all get to choose. Am I going to do that work in this ashram, in the ashram of a householder? Am I going to do it in the sannyas ashram, the renunciant? But the work is there in both places. In relationship, we mistake love for attachment. That somehow if I love you, it's inevitable I'm going to be attached. And it's not inevitable. Because the truth is, if I really deeply love you, not just the fun romance stage, not just the firecrackers, not just the passion, not just the physical ecstasy, but the real ecstasy. Not the one that very quickly goes like this, but the real ecstasy of love. Then what I really love is your essence. What I really love is your soul, your spirit. It's not about your physical body. If it's about your physical body, it's the one that goes like this. It is that attachment. You're nice to me, I love you. You're not nice to me, what happened to you? I couldn't sleep, I can't eat. I hate you, it's not fair. Right? So that's not love. That's a contract basis relationship. You do what I want, then I love you. You don't do what I want. I'm angry, I yell, I scream, I don't, whatever it may be, however our particular bargaining may work. But love is of the spirit. Love is of the soul. Love is of the essence. And so yeah, sometimes there's romance, sometimes there's drama, sometimes there's fireworks, and sometimes there isn't. Sometimes there's just stillness. Sometimes there's sickness. Sometimes there's challenges. Sometimes there's so much. But the love is that isn't only of the body or only of the behavior or only of the drama. It's of the essence. And when I really love the essence, then the attachment to what you say or do, it dissipates automatically. And that's how to turn relationship into yoga. That's how to walk together toward God. Is how can you use this relationship to get beyond the attachment to the physical body? To get beyond the attachment to, are you dancing according to my tune? Are you telling me what I want to hear? And to actually use it as an opportunity to connect soul to soul. Because when you do, that's real love and that's spirituality. So you can certainly use it. But yeah, it's a challenge. It's a huge challenge. That's why the path of monasticism is always available. But don't run from it. Monasticism is not something that we should ever choose or ever walk into because we are pushing away relationship. It's never about what I'm pushing away. It's always about what I'm embracing. So whenever people say to me, oh, should I take sannyas? I always say, not if you're doing it just to avoid the emotional or spiritual difficulties of relationship. Because then you're going to have them in your celibacy. It isn't the actual act of being in relationship with someone that's the problem. It's the mind that's the problem. It's the mind that has jealousy. It's the mind that has expectations. It's the mind that wants what it wants when it wants it. And that'll just come out in a different way. If before you're ready you renounce. So while you're walking that path of relationship, or if you know that's your dharma, to be in relationship, use it. Use it to connect with God. Within yourself, in your loved one. And in that case, use the physical expression of love as yet just another way of loving the divine creation. Because your physical body is part of the divine creation. And so for householders in relationship, the human body in that form is yet just another way of celebrating the beauty of creation. In the same way that we celebrate a sunset or we celebrate a tree. It's all creation. You celebrate the sound of beautiful music. You celebrate the fragrance of a flower. There's no spiritual teaching that says thou shalt not enjoy beautiful music. Thou shalt not smell the flowers and enjoy it. This is the exquisiteness of creation. But just don't get attached to it. When the sunset is over, don't have the mind go, when's it coming back? When's it coming back? When's it coming back? When's it coming back? I need it, I need it, I need it. That's the problem. It was a beautiful expression of creation. And then you drop back in again to the truth of who you are, that divine space, that divine truth that's beyond all this, where the sunset is inside, the smell of the flower is inside, the beautiful music is inside, all of that ecstasy is inside. Which is why the enlightened beings are so happy just sitting in caves, not dreaming about shopping sprees in London or Paris or Dubai, not dreaming of rock concerts, not dreaming of eating this food, because it's all inside. All that enjoyment, all that ecstasy, it's all inside. And that is what helps us ultimately get detached from needing it from the outside world. And you can do that in relationship. In fact, in the Indian tradition, it's said that even after your householder life, after your childbearing years, you're supposed to enter into what's called Vanprastha ashram and then ultimately sannyasa ashram. So it doesn't mean get divorced or walk away from the spouse. It's an internal shift. That even though I may still be physically with you, it's no longer about this. It's now about going inside. And so that is considered actually the dharmic transition pathway, journey of even the path of relationship. Yeah. Good. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening. And we'll see everyone tomorrow.